Under King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, the nation of Israel traded the divine for idols of wood and stone. The regime strictly enforced idolatry, and state agents hunted down and executed the remaining true prophets. Out of the barren hills of Gilead walked a wild, unknown disruptor. Elijah possessed no crown, no army, and no political standing. He wore rough camel hair, yet he carried absolute authority. Striding directly into the throne room, he declared a multi-year drought. The rain stopped immediately. The morning dew vanished. The kingdom's fertile agricultural fields withered to dust, crippling the local economy and paralyzing the power structure. While the kingdom starved, Elijah vanished. Deep in the wilderness at the brook Cherith, he lived in complete isolation, sustained daily by scavengers. Ravens brought him bread and meat every morning and evening. Elijah's survival outside the state apparatus and his control over the climate established him as an invincible entity. He operated entirely beyond the king's jurisdiction. After 3 years of severe famine, Elijah orchestrated a public standoff on the summit of Mount Carmel. He stood alone to challenge 450 state-sponsored prophets of Baal. For hours, the pagan priests screamed, danced, and cut themselves in desperate attempts to conjure a response from their god. Nothing happened. Elijah calmly approached the ruined altar of his god and soaked his offering in 12 large jars of precious water. He offered a short, direct prayer. Instantly, scorching fire dropped from a clear sky. It vaporized the sacrifice, the wood, the stone, and every drop of water in the trench. The skies quickly darkened. Heavy rain hammered the cracked earth, breaking the long drought. Tucking his cloak into his belt, Elijah demonstrated supernatural speed, physically outrunning King Ahab's chariot through the raging storm, all the way back to the city. He had commanded the elements and single-handedly defeated an empire. He appeared entirely superhuman. The total psychological collapse he suffers next is deeply jarring. Queen Jezebel received word of her prophet's demise and immediately sent a messenger to Elijah, promising to kill him within 24 hours. Upon hearing this single threat, the man who had just called fire from heaven panicked. Blinded by terror, he abandoned his post. He ran straight into the scorching southern desert, leaving his servant, his mission, and his newly inspired followers entirely behind. Exhausted, he collapsed in the dirt under the sparse shade of a desert broom tree. Weeping bitterly, he begged the divine to end his life. Biologically, after a massive adrenaline spike, the nervous system demands recovery. Without it, the baseline plummets into complete collapse. Elijah was trapped in that valley. Believing he was the absolute only faithful person left alive, that crushing isolation turned his exhaustion into suicidal despair. Extreme public success provides no immunity from physiological reality. Even the most powerful figures have a very real biological breaking point. The divine response to his collapse involved no grand speeches, no reprimands, and no spectacular miracles. An angel simply provided freshly baked bread, a jar of water, and permitted him to sleep. Fortified by the nourishment, Elijah walked 40 days and 40 nights through desolate terrain. He sought ultimate isolation inside a dark cave on Mount Horeb. He anticipated a dramatic encounter. A violent wind shattered the rocks, an earthquake shook the ground, and fire swept the mountain. The divine presence was completely absent from the chaos. Then came an absolute silence. Out of that stillness emerged a barely audible, gentle whisper. It created a quiet, safe space that allowed Elijah to finally step out of the cave and voice his grief. He received a crucial reality check. 7,000 faithful allies remained hidden throughout Israel. He was instructed to go back and share his heavy burden by anointing new leaders. The cure for extreme burnout required practical rest, a completely renewed perspective, and the humility to rely on a community. Elijah emerged from the cave walking with steady steps. No longer a panicked fugitive, he carried a clear, shared purpose rather than solitary defiance. He located Elisha, a local farmer plowing fields with oxen. Without a word, Elijah took off his cloak and threw it over the younger man's shoulders, officially designating a successor. With his strength renewed, Elijah confronted King Ahab one final time. Ahab had murdered an innocent citizen to steal a vineyard, and Elijah delivered a terminal judgment, setting in motion the systematic destruction of Ahab's entire corrupt lineage. True legacy is secured by gracefully stepping aside and empowering the next generation to finish the work. Elijah's final journey with his student led them to the banks of the River Jordan, the physical threshold separating the earthly realm from the divine. Suddenly, a chariot of fire drawn by flaming horses separated the two men. A massive whirlwind roared down from the sky, sweeping Elijah up into eternity without him ever tasting death. Elisha watched him vanish. He picked up the weathered cloak left behind in the dust and struck the river himself. The fiery spirit of his mentor now lived on in a new vessel. History is shaped by people who break under pressure and allow themselves to be gently restored. True power is the quiet strength to get back up and keep walking.